Okay, Digital Warriors, welcome back. It's Gundoc here, and I've got something a little bit different for you guys. This video, I used to play a lot of these tabletop strategy games, these card and counter games, way back in the day, when I was a little kid. And today I'm going to be playing Normandy 44, and I'm using a program, and this is obviously on the PC. I'm using a program called VASSAL, and what VASSAL does, it's an open source piece of software that lets you play these old school type of board games. There's even modules for some very old classic board games that you can play in VASSAL. And because it's open source, the quality of the game or the module here is kind of dependent on the person who does it. But there's some gems out there. As you can see, I've got a few in here. I've got Core Command Dawn's Early Light, Hornet Leader, which I'm going to be putting out a video pretty soon because that's a pretty fun game. I've got Next War Korea, which I have yet to touch, and then this one I'm going to show you tonight, Normandy 44. Now, a lot of these modules, they're not necessarily the complete game. A lot of the modules have certain, you'll see like combat results tables or certain player aids won't be included in the module, and the reason why that's done is because obviously the publisher and the maker of the game don't want people to just go out and get the module for VASSAL and then have the game for free. So you do have to have a copy of the rules and make sure you've got all the components in order to play the game. And luckily enough, here I do have everything for Normandy 44. Here, this is my PDF copy of the rules here, but I've got the player aids and everything like that in front of me. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and start it here. I chose Normandy 44 just because it's not an overly complicated game. I mean, there are some rules, like any of these games, that you do have to learn, reading the book and kind of looking through the tutorials and the gameplay examples. You do have to do that in order to kind of get an understanding. But if you're familiar with these types of games at all, you should be able to pick it up. And again, this game is not overly hard, but it is fun and it is challenging. You can play multiplayer, with VASSAL. It's free. You just have to find an opponent. There's lots of opponents out there. If you go to like BoardGameGeek.com, you can find people who play all these types of games. But this one, Normandy 44, obviously from the name, you can guess it's a World War II strategy game. It kind of takes place on the Normandy coast with the Allied invasion of France. So that's the segment we're going to be playing. I think it runs from like June 6th until late June, like June 27th or something like that. This is by GMT Games. It was originally released in 2010, and this is the second edition rules and the updated module. So what we're going to do here, this game actually has two different scenarios that you can do. You can do the full campaign, or you can do the Cherbourg scenario, which basically kind of limits the map to the Cotentin, and I'm not even sure if I said that wrong, but the peninsula there on France. But we're going to go for the whole campaign game. Next, we'll go as allies, and we're going to do the solo single player. So we will be playing from both the German and the Ally side. In all reality, it's just I'm going to have to kind of switch my mindset off, when it's the other team's turn, which again it's not hard to do. But as you can see here, the interface for VASSAL is very nice. This looks just like if you were to have the actual board game in front of you, the map. They use the same graphics. You can see the counters, the tokens. Everything's very nicely done. And as we go on, I'll explain, what some of the terrain features are and everything like this. And, you can zoom out. Again, it's the entire Normandy coast, the entire invasion of France right here. We're going to be playing it. And it's from June 1st, actually, not June 1st, June 6th until, so there's 22 turns until June 27th. So I'll probably just do the invasion phase, and maybe the first German turn, or the German side of turn 1, this video, just so I can cut it kind of short and not drag it out too far. But obviously, we're recreating the Normandy invasion here. And what we want to do as allies is obviously, gain a good beachhead, and then we want to cut this peninsula off here so we can eliminate Cherbourg. And then, if at all possible, take Caen and Saint-Lô and push further south into mainland France. As the Germans, obviously we're going to be trying to stop that. So, how do you play these games? Well, again, like I said, you do have to have a copy of the rules. I'm not going to tell you where to get the rules, You guys know how to use Google. They're out there. For certain games anyway. Being that this is a little bit older game and this is a new edition of the rules, 2.1 edition, GMT does provide the rules for this specific game on their website. They have a thing called Living Rules, which they go in, they update, and they make them available online. But again, you do have to have some of the player aids and things like that in order to fully understand all the rules and play the game. So with that being said, we can look at the different tabs up here. We got different units that we can go through: US, British, German. We can look at their tokens, different markers. As combat and the campaign progresses, we'll be using a lot of these different markers. These are the Allied reinforcements. How reinforcements works with this game is you earn certain reinforcement points every turn, whether you're the Axis or Allies, and depending on how many points you want to spend, you can call in reinforcements out of Britain and bring them in to reinforce your lines. The Germans are a little bit different. The Germans kind of have a set reinforcement schedule. So you can see here on turn 2, June 7th, the Germans get all of these. They're color coded. You can see up here, where it's red on this the SS unit here, and blue with these guys here. They have deployment zones where they can come in. So if you look at the German deployment zones, like the red here, obviously only these guys who are red can come in at those 4 deployment zones. The guys with blue can come in the blue ones. There are rules to where if you delay a turn, so if I didn't want to bring them in on turn 2, I can bring them in on turn 3, and I can shift it, say like these red guys, either one zone left or right. But again, we'll get into that as the campaign progresses. So right now for the first turn, we've got to do the what is it? Let's look at the chart. It's going to be the invasion turn. And here's the abbreviated sequence of play. So you're going to see this menu up a lot as I'm playing through it. We don't really have to, we can skip some of these just because when you start the game or you start the campaign, certain things are set. So like the weather is set at overcast. Obviously Mulberry construction can't begin, blah 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 blah. But what we need to do is we need to do the invasion phase. And basically in the first turn, the Allied player gets to go twice essentially. He gets to deploy his troops to like the airborne assaults and the initial beach landings. Then it's the German player's turn, and then it's the American player's normal turn. So the only time the invasion takes place obviously is at the very beginning of the game. And how you go about doing that is, let me zoom in here. I like to work from left to right. Just it keeps things a little bit easier to manage, and it's just a little bit more efficient. Just going over the tokens right quick, as you can see as I highlight this guy here, there's a lot of different numbers here, and again it's really easy. You've got their unit here, so this is the 506 Parachute Regiment of the 86 Airborne Division, and you can see look at the 82nd Airborne badge up there. They've got the NATO symbol here for Airborne. This number here on the left is their troop quality, so they're a +1, so they're kind of like elite troops versus say these guys here who are 0, or even these German troops up here who are -1. Obviously the better troop quality, better quality of troops you have, the more effective they are in combat, and you get certain dice roll modifiers based upon that troop quality. The number up in the upper right just kind of says where they initially start when you set up the game. So as you can see, each hex is numbered. These guys here, the 507th, they automatically start in hex 2810, and if we turn it off here, you can see hex 2810. This is where they start the 507th there. So we'll go and turn those back on, and we'll get to our deployment. So how do you do the invasion? Really simple. What I like about Normandy 44 is that everything is really simplified. So you're going to look at the airborne scatter table. We're going to look for the 82nd Airborne Division, which is right here, and we're just going to roll a d6, and based upon what number we get, this is the outcome of that roll. So I'm going to pull this down a little bit. And how do you roll the dice in this game? Well, they've got a handy button up here. Certain games, have you roll 2d6, 1d6, 2d10, whatever. Everything can be created within the module itself, which is really nice. This module is very well done. I can't remember the name of the guy who actually converted it, but it looks exactly like the board game. I mean, exactly like the board game. But let's go ahead and start here. We're going to start with the 507th. And what I like to do when I start this is I bring up my cadre box, and I'll explain this in a minute, and then units, just because, and we'll go to US units, and this is the 50, what is it, what are these guys? 507, sorry. I'll explain what this is used for as we go through here, because I'm sure that these guys are going to take some damage coming down. So let's go ahead and roll our dice here for 507th, and let's see what happens to them. What can happen to them here? We can get an S2, S2, S1, S1, S. Basically, if you look down here, this kind of explanation, the explanation of results. So they're either scattered, and they take some damage, or they scattered and they really take some damage. So for the 507th, we'll roll a dice. 1d6 equals 2. That was our random roll, which is an S2, a Sierra 2 result. That's not good. So what does that mean? That means that they lose a step, and as you can see, well, here before I explain it, this number here on the left, the 4, that's their attack strength, their combat, I can't remember what they call it in here, but basically it's their attack. So the higher number the better. And then the 3 is their movement allowance. So it'd be like 3 hexes is what they can move, unless they're on roads, and you know, roads give modifiers. You got different effects that limit or you gain movement based on the terrain that you're going through. So the number on the left is their combat effectiveness, how strong they are. Number on the right is their movement. So he rolled an S2, which is scattered and loses 2 steps. That's not good. And what I'm going to do here, just to kind of help me keep track, is I'm going to drag this counter up here, and I'm going to put it in the Allied cadre box. Oh, what's happened here? Oops. So I'm going to put it in the Allied cadre box here, and this is just going to be kind of like a reminder for me, like when I do my my reinforcements. And he loses 2 steps, and as you can see, the first step he goes down to a 3-3, and he gets this single small band across. That's just to let me know that he's been reduced, but he actually lost 2 steps, so I got to knock him down again, and he goes to a cadre token, and you can see that he's really reduced now. So he's at 50% strength of what he was. He's now a 2-3 token instead of starting out as a 4-3, and that's really not that great. What the cadre means is that this is actually a 3-step token. Most of the tokens are either 1 step or 2 steps. So if you take 2 damage, basically think of it in these terms, damage. If you take 2 damage, you're done. This guy actually can take 3 damage, but when he gets reinforcements, he can only reinforce back to a 2 damage token, if that makes any sense. I'll explain it again when the reinforcement phase comes along and you guys have a better understanding about it. The numbers in parentheses means that they can't attack. They can only use that combat power to defend. So basically, the 507th has been reduced to just a defensible unit until I, replenish them with some more airborne replacements, which I do get airborne replacements. You can see at the S2 result, scattered loses 2 steps, and we record 1 airborne replacement. Now I can right-click on him, and just as a marker, so I know, or I can remember that he is scattered. So we'll go ahead and place that there, and then we need to come up here to our general records track and go delete this one because I like to use these, and he gains an airborne replacement token. And what this means is right now I have 1, because I put it in the 1 column, 1 airborne replacement. So when reinforcements and replacements come in, I can use this token. I can use 1 point to reinforce this guy back up 1 step. Obviously there's certain rules that kind of govern who can accept reinforcements. You can't get reinforced if you're directly in contact with another enemy unit. I think scattered, you can't take reinforcements, but yeah, I mean, there'll be plenty of reinforcements coming in throughout the game. So let's go ahead and go on to the next one. We'll look at the 505. So we'll find his token up here, and we'll go ahead and roll our 6-sided die, and we got a 3, which is a little bit better. It's a scattered 1 result. So he gets reduced 1 step, and he is a 3-3 token, but he's not a cadre, so I don't need to put him in the cadre box. and then I need to go ahead and put a scatter token on him, as well as shift that to 2 because he was reduced. He gains another airborne replacement point. So I now have 2 airborne replacement points. So now we'll hit the 508th, roll the dice in 5, which is a little bit better result, which is an S, which just means scattered. So I don't need to put a token up here. I don't need to shift the replacements token because I didn't, theoretically lose anybody. But again, they are scattered. So the 82nd airborne drop there came out okay. It's usually a lot worse every time I've played this before. Those S2s will really put a hurting on you. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here, give you guys a little bit better look. Let's go ahead and go to the 101st. And it's the same thing. They're an airborne unit. In World War II, they were an airborne unit. Obviously now they're what, air cav or something like that. But we'll go ahead and look at the 502nd. We'll start with them, highlight their token, roll the marker. We got a 3. So we look again on the airborne scatter table. We find the 101st. A result of 3 is an S1. So we need to lose a step, and unit status scattered. And just like before, we need to shift that airborne marker. There we go. And we just keep on going down the line here for the oops, give me just a second here. We just keep on going through the units. So we'll hit the 506th, result of 4, which is just scattered. That's good. So as you can already see, the 101st is faring a little bit better than the 82nd. And we'll do the 501st, which is 5, which is nothing, which is a line. That means absolutely nothing happened. They landed safely, intact, and they're ready to fight as soon as it's their turn. So we'll go ahead and close these out. So that's it. That's how the American airborne drop for the beginning of this campaign went. Really kind of pleased with that. The 82nd always takes a beating, just like it did in real life. And the 101st, I can live with it. They lost, what, 1 step, and 2 units scattered and 1 unit ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and do the Utah beach landings. Again, I'm working left to right. You can see, on the map, on certain markers, it has things, information pieces letting you know. So the 325th Glider Regiment here from the 82nd, that's going to come in on phase 2, or and the initial phase of turn 2. And you can see they're supposed to land right here's where they're pointing to, but we'll get to that in turn 2. So how do you handle the actual beach landings? Again, this game is very simple the way it handles it. You can see here, let me go ahead and minimize that. You can see here that all the different beach landings. You've got Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, which takes care of the American beach landings, Point de Hoc, which is right there where the Rangers landed. You've got the British or the Commonwealth beach landings, so Gold, Juno, Sword with the Canadians and the Brits. And then further down you've got a glider brigade from the 6th Airborne, was it? I can't remember if it's a regiment or what division, but it's the British Paras. And then the British Paras landing here northeast of Cannes. But we'll get to them when we work our way down the table. So for now, we're gonna handle the beach landings at Utah Beach and Omaha Beach. So the American beach landings here and Point de Hoc. I always forget about the Rangers, but I won't forget about them this time. So with the beach landings, if you look at these different stacks here, you can see different units. This stack here actually contains an engineer battalion marked with the NATO symbol, for an E here, a headquarters unit, which you use your headquarters units to call on artillery support, and I'll explain that a little bit further along. And then obviously more leg units or tanks and what have you, and I think there's tanks and the 4th Infantry Division here. But in all of these boxes, there's certain stacks. If you look at here, these 3 tokens up in the upper right, they have Utah with an underline, or the tank has Utah with a DD. What that means is these are the ones that come in the initial invasion table. So these are the only ones that come in at the very beginning of the game. These other guys up here, you can see Utah's not underlined, or it doesn't have a DD. These ones actually come in at the beginning of turn 2 for the allied player. So we're only concerned with the bottom stacks in each of the blocks. and obviously the entire stack here at Pointe du Hoc with the 2nd Ranger Battalion and the 5th Ranger group here. So what do? You highlight the stack, and then we're going to roll on the table. You look at what beach you're rolling for. So this is Utah Beach here, and then these are going to give us, kind of similar to like what we did with the Airborne scatter table, we're going to roll a d6 and play out the result, and I'll explain what these results are, you know, with whatever we get. So we roll a single d6, and this is for the entire stack. So 1d6, our result was a 3, which is a A1 D1 and an advanced one. And what this means is that an attacker takes a loss, the defender takes a loss, and we're able to advance 1 hex into the beach. So these here are German strong points all along the beach. As you can see, they're fairly weak. They can't move, they can't make direct attacks, they can only defend. They only have 1 step, so they're pretty much one-hit wonders. So here at Utah, because the result was A1 D1, this guy's automatically killed outright, and then it's the attacker's choice on which unit wants to take the hit. You can only choose the infantry battalions or infantry units, because the tank, and I'll show you here in just a second what happens with the tanks. So both of these units here, the 8th and 12th of the 4th Infantry Division, they're identical tokens, so it doesn't really matter which one takes the hit. So you go, lose 1 step, it's now a 4-4 token versus a 6-4 token. And then we go ahead and shift it right into there. That's our 1 hex. Now, the tanks roll on a separate table. We've got the DD tank table. And we have to roll a d6, and it's going to let us know a 1 through 3, we get a -1 step on the tank token. 4 through 6 is any or no effect. So we want to roll high on your DD tank table. We rolled a 5, nothing happens. So that's a great roll here. I'm really happy with that, actually, because we can push that stack in to give support to our beleaguered airborne troops over here. So moving on, now we're on to the 2nd and 5th Ranger regiments here. So how this particular rule works, well, let's go ahead and roll for the stack here. So just like this, only difference is, as you can see, there's no, you know, this is Pointe du Hoc right there. But if you look on the invasion chart, on the invasion table, there's no actual Pointe du Hoc chart, so we just use the all others table. So we'll go ahead and roll our die, and we get a 3, which is attacker 1, defender 1, advance 1. So on this one, the 2nd Ranger Regiment always takes the hit, and I'll explain reasons why. So we're down to a 1-4 unit. The strong point is automatically eliminated, and the 2nd moves. Now there is a special rule here that's actually in the rule book that I'm not going to get into right now. I'll just explain it. You have to roll a die, a 1d6, and I believe it's, let's take a look here. As you see, this is the rule book here. German phase, weather, allied. And we're scrolling through here. But we have to make a die roll to see if the 5th Ranger Battalion actually, or Ranger Regiment, actually makes it onto Pointe du Hoc, or if they get not diverted but miscommunication, and then they're going to end up actually coming in on the first assault wave on Omaha. And I'm just looking here. I can't remember if it's a 1 through 3 they come in. Here we go. CRT ranges at Pointe du Hoc. So if a 1 is rolled on the invasion combat, the landing fails, and the 2nd Battalion is eliminated, and the 5th Battalion must land at Omaha, blah blah blah. We did not roll a 1, so if the 2nd Battalion is not eliminated, there's a chance that the 5th Battalion misses the signal to reinforce, as happened historically, and will land at Omaha. Immediately after the 2nd Battalion lands, roll a die, 1 through 3, place the 5th Battalion at Pointe du Hoc. On all other results, the 5th Battalion is actually diverted to the first wave Omaha follow-up box. So we're going to go ahead and roll for them, and our roll is 4, which is not good. So they're getting shifted to the first reinforcement wave at Omaha Beach. If we had rolled low on a 1 through 3, I would have put them right here at Pointe du Hoc, right behind the 2nd Battalion Rangers. So we're kind of following a historical precedent here. Moving on to Omaha. Let's roll 1. That's not good. So at Omaha, an A1 with an asterisk. The allied player loses a step and rolls again. So Omaha, bloody Omaha. This is the only invasion table that has this rule. You can really get slaughtered on Omaha Beach if you keep rolling 1s, because every time you roll a 1, you have to roll again and you lose a step on a unit. And then we lose any advance 2 as an advance 1 on our subsequent rolls here for this particular stack. So we're going to take the hit on one of our 29th Infantry Divisions, and we got to roll again for him. 2. That's not really much better. So the attacker takes 2 hits. Defender takes 1. So the defender's automatically eliminated. And we got to take 2 hits, which means we're going to lose one of these infantry divisions. So it doesn't really, or actually no, these are 3-step tokens. Okay, that's good. So he'll lose a step. He becomes a cadre token. He'll lose a step. I'm going to look at my cadre box, and just as a reminder, we need to add a cadre token. And what token is that? That was the 1/16 of the 29th. So we need to find him in here, 1/16 of the 29th, and just as a reminder, drop him in there. Alright. And then now we need to roll on the DD tank table for our Shermans here. And we get a 5, which is much better. That's a no effect roll. So our tanks make it on the beach. Second stack, this is the 1st Infantry Division along with their tank support. We'll roll 2. That's a crappy roll. Attacker 2, Defender 1. Defenders removed, and they'll lose a step, and they'll lose a step. And the reason why I did it I spread those steps out across both of them is because if I had taken one down to a cadre, the most he could reinforce would only be 1 step, which would only bring him to a 4/4. Splitting it this way, I can bring both of, I have the potential to bring both of these units back up to full strength. So let's move them up there. Roll for the tanks, which is a 5. Again, a no effect. So at least our armor made it on the beach intact at Omaha, and that's going to help out some. So shifting down, we're getting to the Brits here, and let's go ahead and put their tanks on top. I like to have the armor on top of the stacks. There is a limit on how many pieces, a stacking limit that you can have, and the way it works is any number, attacking number. Okay, so for instance, we've got 2 infantry, what are these, brigades, I think, 2 infantry units here with an attack power of 6, right? So the maximum stacking power you can have is 4, and it goes by power, not actual individual tokens. So each of these 6s would equal 2 because their combat power is greater than 2, right? Yeah. So if these guys were, say, like these Germans here, this 2-3 German, he would only count as 1 against that stacking limit of 4. So you could potentially have 4 tokens of this 2-3 unit in there. Silhouetted units, so as you can see, most of the units have the NATO symbols for what they are, except for things like armor, anti-tank weapons, things like that. You can have 1 silhouetted unit free in your stack. If you have more than 1, then obviously you would go by their attacking number. Headquarters units and engineers don't count towards your stacking limits, but you can only have 1 of each type within a stack. So you can't have 2 engineers in one stack. You can't have 2 headquarters in a stack, but you can have an engineer and a headquarters unit in the stack, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and roll for these guys here. Again, we're using the all other table, and that was a really horrible roll. That's an A2D1 roll. So the defenders are eliminated, and we lose steps. And let me see here. And I'm going to spread them out again for the same reasons like we did over on Omaha. We're going to place them in the hex, and then we're going to roll for the tanks. And our luck doesn't hold with the tanks. Our tanks take a hit. They lose a step as well. So that stack actually got pretty beat up there on Jig's sector of Gold Beach. Let's go ahead and do king. We got a 5. That's a good result. Attacker 1, defender 1, advance 2. So they're eliminated. Again, these units are identical, so they'll lose a step, and we can actually move 2. Now, normally we would be able to move 2.
My knees.
Mage, please.
My knees. My knee hurt.
So actually we'd be able to move 2 hexes, but in this instance we can't because actually we could move 2 hexes. You've got what are called zones of control, and I'll go over those real quick. So each unit has a zone of control on the 6 hexes adjoining, you know, on the sides of that unit. Basically, if an enemy unit comes within your token zone of control, it has to stop, or it pays a penalty price to its movement. This game also has another unique feature called ZOC bonds, so zone of control bonds. And I can show you here what a ZOC bond is. And let me get a marker right quick, so it'll be easier for me to use one of these. A ZOC bond is basically, think of it like a force field created between 2 units. And you can have ZOC bonds in a couple different ways. So these 2 units here, these 2 German units, actually have a ZOC bond between them, which would be right here. What that means is that enemy units can't move through that zone to get behind them. Okay, you can't move through a ZOC bond. It could move here and attack, you know, one or the other. It could go around them, you know, obviously through either their zone of control or go way out of the way and come around them, but it could not move through that bond. Bonds can also be created, obviously along that. There's a bond here, there's a bond here, and there is a bond here. Okay, so that's to keep things from getting, you know, crazily flanked, you know, in this game, and it's an actually really nice system. Certain units can form bonds, certain units can't form bonds. So like all of these like defensible strong points here with these red hexagons, those don't form zonal control bonds with anybody. They don't even have zonal control, so they don't form ZOC bonds at all. And that is that. So because these guys can move too, and we still need to roll for the tank here, and we'll go ahead and do that now. Or did I roll for the tank? I can't remember if I rolled for that tank or not. What did I roll? No, I did not roll for that tank. Alright, we're going to roll for the tank real quick. A 4. That's good. So I can actually move this stack too. Obviously moving here, I'm entering the zone of control, but because I'm able to move 2, I could move them here to these crossroads and kind of expedite our push on to Khan, which I think I may go ahead and do. 1, 2 hexes. Now you can also form ZOC bonds with the coast. Units can. And that is an instance would be right here. So if these allied units weren't here, there would actually be a bond on the coast and this German unit, oops, and this German unit right here. So you'd have the coast in this unit, and then there would be one right here as well. Obviously there wouldn't be one way over here because it only bonds only go 1 hex. So it would be here and here, which would mean no enemy unit would be able to come around there. But we don't have to worry about that right now. So let's go ahead and finish our invasion here. So the Brits are looking good at gold. Let's go ahead and do these guys here, the Canadians at Juno. We'll roll our dice. A result of 1 on others. Unlike Omaha, this is just an A2D1 roll. So we're going to lose a step. Lose a step. The defenders are killed. And then roll for our tanks, which is a 5, which is good. They make it on the beach. I'm going to do these guys. A 3. These are horrible rolls today. A1, D1 roll. Defenders killed. Now, I do have a choice here. There's kind of like a special service brigade here. These guys are really good. As you can see, they're a 5-4. But if they lose a step, they only get so many reinforcements. So I really don't want to reduce the 4 SS right now. So I'm going to actually take the hit on the regular infantry here. And we're going to move and we're going to roll for our tank, which is a 5. So all in all, our tanks are looking pretty good. We're getting a lot of armor, which normally doesn't happen, at least not with my rolls. We're going to go ahead and join this stack for all 3 of these tokens coming on the beach. God damn. Another one. A2, D1. Let's go ahead and reduce them to a cadre token. Shit. You know, we'll go ahead and take the hit on the first SS here. Defender is removed, and roll for a tank, which is a 3. So those tanks lost a step too. So they got fairly beat up. And then now we just need to do the British paras. We'll start over here, and this one we're going to look on the 6th Airborne here table. They have a pretty easy landing, as you can see. The only time they're going to get a negative result really is on a 1 or 2. So we're going to roll for him. He gets a 6, so he's perfectly fine. These guys, they get a 2, so that's a scattered 1. They lose a step, and they are scattered. But we need to come up here and we need to mark their replacement. There it is. So I get 1 counter so far anyway. Let's go ahead and zoom in, and we'll do the small battalion here. 2, and it's gonna be the same thing. So they'll lose a step, and that's another point. And moving over there on the right, they need a scattered token placed on them. Alright, I'm going to close that out. So there it is. That's the initial invasion of our game for the allied player. Doesn't look too bad. Got some good units on the beach over here at Utah. Got that entire stack pretty much unscathed. Omaha, that stack got pretty beat up. They got fairly beat up. Beat up. They're okay. Beat up. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. But that's the initial invasion phase. Now moving on to the Germans' first turn. So if we look at the chart, we can see here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the German turn for another video. I'll cut it short here. This one's getting pretty long, longer than I intended. So I'll save German turn 1 for the next video. So guys, stay tuned. I hope you're enjoying this. This is going to be a long series of videos, but it'll be fun. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.